What is going on, everybody? It's CoasterCast, the official awesome coaster podcast. Today, we're going to be introducing all of ourselves one by one, all of our top 10 lists, having a blast. Hope you guys enjoy this video. I'm Adam, Roller Coaster. I love Swamp Fox. Check out my channel. Check out everybody's channel. Next up, we got Bradley.
Hello, and yeah, I'm the crazy credit whore. About me.
All right, Dylan, Dirty Coasters.
Hi, I like Blue Streak.
Ryan, CoasterCast.
I work at Santa's Village. Come check it out.
And Skylar. Skylar is stuck on a lift hill.
I'm the one who started the Max's Doggy Dog Coaster meme, so that's cool.
Very nice, very nice. So let's start off with all of our top 10 coasters. Unfortunately, one of our members cannot be here tonight. That's Justin, that Intamin guy. I'll check him out on YouTube. He is very cool. He likes Intamin, but that's contradictory to his number 10 pick, which is Kumba, arguably one of the best B&Ms in the world. I think we can all agree on, right?
Definitely.
Agreed.
Very solid B&M with the whip and all that good stuff. And, you know, just insanely intense. Probably the most consistently intense B&M currently operating and probably that will ever operate. So I have no issues with that.
It's the most consistently intense, but I'll give it a solid number 2.
All right. What would you say is more intense?
Nemesis.
Oh, all right. That's new. I haven't heard that from you.
Approve.
All right. Well, solid. Yeah, Nemesis. I think probably is the number one being a member, but I wouldn't know. You've written it, so that's cool. All right. At number 9, Justin ranked Millennium Force ahead of Kumba, and I think I don't know what to think on this one. Like comparing, you know, an intense, forceful inverting ride to, you know, a floaty, you know, airtime type ride. But
The fun factor. That's what you
Yeah.
hunt for.
It's an interesting pick for sure, but I don't agree with it.
I don't know. I really enjoy Millennium. It's more of an enjoyable ride than it is just like a, you know, man, this ride's awesome sort of thing. But yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, he ranks Montu as number 8, which is pretty much the invert version of Kumba, with maybe a little bit more insanity. I don't know, maybe not. What do you think, Brad? You're like a master of Busch Gardens Tampa.
Montu, it's got better peaks, I guess, but it's also got much crappier lows. Where there's some parts of Montu you're like, especially
like
post mid-course brake run.
Yeah, it
Like
kind
the
of
vertical
meanders
loop and then those
before that.
turns until the corkscrew. Like that entire section is just like it's an elongated turnaround that doesn't really
Yeah.
accomplish anything.
Yeah, that's true. Kumba never really stops for anything. Like even the mid course, it still hauls right through that. So
Yeah.
I think Kumba beats it in pacing. But I mean, really, Montu versus Kumba is like really probably more of a personal preference sort of thing.
Agreed.
I just think it's interesting how I put Millennium in between them. But all right, number 7, he ranks Maverick kind of low in my opinion. But considering he's that intimate guy, you know, Maverick is number 7, and I love this ride. It's very awesome. It was my number 1 for a while, but let's not talk about my list.
I think for him, I'll give it a little defense on that instant guy Maverick being low is it's been a while since it's been to Cedar Point. He'll be there in a few weeks, so he'll see whether.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because he rode it
better.
with the hard restraints in 2015. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Actually, I'm pretty sure we've all been on Maverick, haven't we?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Everybody
not,
here.
as much as we
Yes.
try to prevent it, recency bias is always going to play a role in rankings.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you'll see that in his next 2 picks a lot. So next he picked Phoenix, which he rode like a few days ago actually, and I love Phoenix. I think it looks amazing, and you know the standing airtime is right up my alley. The buzz bars are awesome. So I don't really have any issues. I mean, I love Maverick, and I also love buzz bars. So it's really just down to, you know, what do you prefer? Crazy standing airtime to, you know, the variety offered by Maverick. How do we think about it, guys?
Phoenix is probably like the most fun coaster on the planet. You
This is
can't
fun.
ride that ride and not have a smile on your face and not be happy.
I can't speak from experience, but that airtime with the buzz bars looks absolutely insane. Especially that Aztec hill.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all that airtime this thing looks awesome. That the last 4, the fade looks great. Next up, I didn't even see this until now. Twister is number 5. He ranks. That's seriously insane. I can't even believe it's this high. But above Phoenix, above Maverick. I never thought of Twister to be this good, but I guess it is. I mean, I know it's pretty intense. It's got the helixes, not a lot of airtime. It's pretty interesting to me. What do we think about it, guys?
Talking to Justin about it, it seemed he was just people weren't hyping it up. Like I was hyping up Phoenix for him, and so maybe Phoenix, the hype was too high. It didn't meet expectations. Twister doesn't really have any hype, and he just loved the laterals. That it did something that really there's not a lot of good coasters for laterals out there.
He said it himself. He found what he likes in a coaster, and now it's laterals.
All right. All right, sorry about that. That was awkward.
That's all right.
All right, we're all here, right?
Yes, I believe
Yeah.
so.
All right.
Let's continue to number 4.
Okay, yeah. So just start now. All right. So number 4, he ranked Intimidator 305, and I honestly think this ride, this is definitely a personal favorite of his. I'm pretty sure it's his logo coaster, always talking about I-305, the first turn and everything, and the whippiness and awesomeness. And it looks pretty great. What do we think about it? I still don't know what to think about this ride. It's just so crazy. Anyone?
I mean, if you're a fan of intense rides, I guess this is it.
Yeah.
It's really intense, just not a lot of variety and elements.
I think
Yeah.
it suffers that issue, and there's other rides that have this problem. You don't put your absolute best element that besides your first drop, you can't control that at the very beginning of the ride. So you go drop, amazing turn, and then the best moment of airtime on the ride, and then the rest of the ride, to me, you kind of just is it's sort of almost meandering the rest of the way.
I mean, the rest of the ride just seems to be laterals and throwing you around rather than accomplishing positive G's or negative G's of any kind.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
yeah, but still, really solid ride. The first element's great. Number 3, Justin ranked Skyrush ahead of I-305, and I this coaster, especially for me, is the most questionable coaster because it's super intense positive G's and negative G's, but it's also pretty short and it doesn't really have a lot of whip. I don't feel but I don't know.
It does have a whip. Those
Lateral bracing on the seats, so any turn throws you to the side.
Yeah.
Elaborate on this. I didn't even know much about laterals on Skyrush.
The transition out of the Stangle dive, you get thrown almost 90 degrees to the side. As the train flattens out, you stay 90 degrees.
Dang. So it's you're getting pulled lateral airtime.
Yeah. Skyrush was the only ride when the first year I rode it, even while marathon, I would right when you got right before the Stangle dive, I got nervous and always put my arms down, held onto restraint to brace myself because if you're not bracing yourself, you will go violently to the side. You can't control your body. And it kind of you're almost nervous about it, and it's kind of scary, but you get used to it over time.
That sounds pretty awesome. It's reasonable for that to be above I-305 just because, no over the shoulders or anything. Yeah. And more than one awesome moment, So, yeah. All right. Number 2, Justin ranked Twisted Timbers there. And wow, the new RMC, this might be recency bias, I kind of feel like it kind of is, but I don't know. I still don't really have a good idea of how this actually ranks in terms of the RMC and everything. This is his first RMC, so interesting. You know, like the first RMC that's only focused on airtime and that's it. And it seems like it does a very, very good job at it. So yeah, and I don't think anybody here has been on this yet. Or Skylar has.
Oh yeah.
What do you have to say about it, huh?
I mean, it's a really great ride. I can kind of see where he's coming from, because I feel like he thought that Skyrush was a little painful. Twisted Timbers, it doesn't have that pain factor, and there's a lot more. Well, Skyrush has like Twisted Timbers has literally 20, so 4 times as many.
Yeah. I feel like Twisted Timber just capitalizes on the fun factor and just quantity.
It's not as intense and crazy, but it's a lot more fun, I'd say.
All right, yeah, that sounds about right. All right, and as number 1, El Toro, of course. Pretty sure a lot of you could have guessed that one. He's that intimate guy, and we all love El Toro here. Even if you haven't been on it, like me,
indeed,
or like 3 out of 5 of us. So, well, yeah, definitely an insane ride. I think Brad is the one to elaborate on this one.
Skylar, do you want to elaborate or me?
No,
I'll elaborate on my list. So
okay,
go ahead.
I can elaborate enough. I mean, just a consistent ride for the most part. It's got among the best airtime on the planet, if not. I don't know, because you can actually enjoy it because the hills are large enough that you can tell you're airborne, and then it's got also a pretty darn good intensity, turnarounds, and at the very end, the Maverick section, which is very funny that it's called the Maverick section, even though El Toro came first. I don't know why we don't call the beginning of Maverick the El Toro section. That's
I have never heard it called that before.
Literally, the very ending, like everyone I talked to when I was younger, and everyone who talked about El Toro calls it like the Maverick section because it's side turns that are found right at the beginning of Maverick.
I guess it does resemble those though. And like, are they like intense positive G's or just laterals? Like, I can't really.
They are intense. That's the hardest part of the ride, to keep your arms up. Like, you know, a ride's intense when it's hard to keep your arms up, or at least hard to keep them up straight. It's a good test.
See, like, I always picture El Toro as just a negative G monster, and like, you know, sustained ejector all over the place.
It has both.
But it's got both, so yeah. It's got everything that you ever want in a coaster, pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
it just needs a better turnaround. That's about it.
Yeah, that is true. The way back, like after you go out, is a little bit weak, but it's like right in the middle of the ride. It makes sense. All right, moving on. We got whose list?
Skylar.
Yay. Skylar, start talking.
So on to number 10. Number 10 is Fury 325. Now, I didn't ride this in like the best conditions. It was like a week after it opened on a cold April morning. Somewhere. So, you know, not the best great time on Fury, but you know, it's still a really fun ride. It's one of the more fun rides I've ridden. A lot of variety. I mean, it has good airtime. It's not any amazing airtime, I didn't think, but it's decently intense. It's long. It has a head chopper, so.
Question, Scott. How many times did you ride Fury? You were there.
Actually, because I was kind of GP, and I was like, who needs to ride anything more than once?
So I'm curious for you, if you go back and rewrite it, that like that one ride was not a good indicator, and you actually like it more if you rewrite it, or that one ride was like, okay, I didn't notice any of the potential flaws that you might have with it, and then you rewrite it. So I'll be awaiting.
It could definitely go up, I'd say.
Yep.
I would definitely agree with that fun factor, though. Like that's what this ride has going for it. Not the intensity necessarily, but the fun factor. You're just flying like really fast, low to the ground.
All right.
Okay. Number 9 is Intimidator 305. Now, I struggle. This has gone up and down so much on my list over the years. Feel about it ever. Like, it's really intense, especially in the beginning. The first turn is probably the most intense moment I've ever experienced on a roller coaster. And I like intensity and all that, but I prefer a little bit more in a roller coaster. Like, I like airtime a lot. More variety.
Yeah, I feel like I-305 just doesn't really have the airtime. Like it's got that one hill, but like after that, there's like only some floater, like in those trimmed hills. It seems like,
And
or maybe it's ejector. I don't know, but
it's not. It's not really ejector. At least it wasn't this year when I rode it.
yeah,
Intense ride, and it's pretty crazy. But then it almost gets borderline like too much sometimes.
yeah,
So then the fun factor kind of goes down. Like, I like intense rides, but I still like to kind of enjoy them a lot too. Air 305, the enjoyment factor goes down just because there's so many positive G's.
yeah. All right. Next.
8 is Millennium Force, which is kind of a weird choice to rank it above 2 gigas that most people would say are better. And I don't know, a lot of this has to do with like kind of a personal bias. I've been riding this for now. It's one of the coasters that like got me into coasters. And it's I'm not going to say it's super intense because it's definitely not.
I mean, the first overbank is pretty intense. I've like almost grayed out there a few times.
I have before. Like, it's intense.
Yeah. It's got force, but you know, it's probably nothing compared to I-305 and maybe not Fury. I don't think.
It's comparable to Fury.
Comparable. Okay.
I mean, the airtime's decent. It's a long ride. But I don't know. It's just a really fun ride. It might be the most fun ride I've ridden. That's hard to say. It has a really good time on it.
Yeah. All right.
It's a really fun ride. There's a lot of history that I have with it.
Yeah, but speaking of more fun rides, next up is
Maverick, which I recently moved like way down, like
oh, come on,
a couple
man.
days ago. Sorry. I really like this ride.
Awesome.
It's basically the king of variety. Like, there's not really much that it doesn't have.
Yeah.
Much is the intensity. It has really good airtime. Even like, there's not a lot of it, but the few moments that it has are really good. It has good laterals.
Yeah, those freaking stangle dives, man, they're just awesome.
Crazy, and the corkscrews are fun, I think.
The twisted horseshoe roll, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam.
Come on, Skylar. All
Yeah,
right.
There's a lot of variety going on with it, and that's towards like ejector airtime because
Like, yeah.
that's
It just seems like it kind of seems like one of the most like fun rides, just right over and over again for like and like experience everything it offers because it's just got so much to love on it. So yeah. All right. What we got next?
Number 6 is another ride I moved down, and I feel like I'm gonna upset everyone here. But number 6,
you're upsetting me already.
Same.
6 is Voyage. I did have this at number 2 for quite a while, but then I was like, I don't know.
Jeez.
Wait, how does something go from 2 to 6 though? I want to hear this.
I feel like part of it was you guys playing into it, like, oh, Voyage is amazing. And I was like, yeah, it is. And
I
like,
hyped it up for Hollywood Nights Voyage. Not regular
but then
Voyage.
Ryan hyped it up for regular Voyage.
Yeah, but Ryan's Ryan. Well, the other
Yeah, no,
Ryan.
Ryan does that every list, like best coasters in the world he's done. He's put Voyage at number 1, like ahead of everything. It doesn't matter.
Like he's pushing so hard for it to be the best thing ever, but like, is it really?
Sort of, but not always.
So like I was kind of going along with it. Like, yeah, I agree. But like I didn't ride this during Hollywood Nights, obviously. I didn't even get a night ride. I'd back row. So, you know, I didn't have the best conditions either, sort of with Fury. Because of that, I found the airtime to be kind of underwhelming. Like, everyone talks about the airtime on this ride and how there's so much of it, which there is a lot of seconds of airtime, but most of it seemed like floater to me.
Yeah, there really isn't any ejector on it. There's a few pops here and there.
Near the end, there was some, like, I think there was some in the triple down. There was some ejector, and a little bit later on, I think one part in the section, the low to the ground twister section, after the big camelbacks, there was like 1 or 2 moments there.
I think everyone looks at Voyage for airtime in the first section, and I'd say can we agree there's 3 sections? There's going out there, then there's the jumbled turnaround, and then the spaghetti bowl, and then pretty much from the mid-course brake run back.
Yeah.
The first section's the worst part.
Definitely.
There's not a lot of anything.
I think the one good moment in that section is where you start in a tunnel and there's that low to the ground ejector-ish hill to the right, back into a tunnel. That's probably the best moment of the first.
Yeah, it
probably
seems to me like a wooden B&M Hyper, like just hills and not really doing a whole lot.
Core B&M Hyper, but still.
Yeah. All right.
So like the airtime was almost the weakest part of the ride, which I wasn't really expecting. But like other than that, it's still really intense. It's really long. So it still has a lot going for it. It's a little bit rough, but it mostly just adds to the intensity, if that makes sense.
All right.
It's far from a bad ride or anything. Like, it's still in my top 10, obviously. I just thought I would have liked the airtime to be a little bit stronger overall.
Well, very good. A very different opinion on Voyage from this side of the community. I like it. You know, dare to be different.
Yeah.
So next up, what do you got?
Is Wicked Cyclone, which I feel like I've talked about a lot over the years, but Cyclone's great, and I think everyone knows that. There's not much left to say about it. It has a lot of ejector airtime moments. The stall's pretty fun. The other inversions are fun. I don't have much to say about it other than like it has a lot of great ejector airtime.
Yeah, it's really just some perfect RMC almost, but not really. It's like a perfect like compact, like everything you'd really want. It seems like. So.
All the things.
Yeah.
It's almost like the perfect taster of like, this is what we can do.
Yeah, but then
everything.
But next up isn't really quite like that.
Number 4 is Twisted Timbers, which I rode recently too, and part of me ranking it is how I could have to do with the circumstances, because like I had to kind of fight to ride this thing. Got to ride it. It kind of made me like it even more. I think it's definitely better than Wicked Cyclone. I feel like I've decided that by now. Because Twisted Timbers, it doesn't focus as much as Wicked Cyclone on the inversions and just has airtime, and it's basically all Wicked Cyclone level airtime. Like there's just whole straight out and back sections of track just dedicated to airtime over and over again, and that can really seem a whole lot better when it's just airtime hill, airtime hill, airtime hill, airtime hill.
Yeah, it seems like Twisted Timbers is like more consistent with just giving a good ride. Like, I mean, you always hear that it's slow in the morning and everything, but I feel like Wicked Cyclone has good and bad days, whereas Twisted Timbers has always good days.
I think I rode Wicked Cyclone at its prime anyway.
But yeah, then we've got, some solid opinions that you're looking at. And speaking of solid opinions, number 3, what is it?
3 is Storm Chaser, which this has gone up a little bit recently as well. Now, the reason I struggled to rank this one is because like it's so short. Half the length of Wicked Cyclone or Twisted Timbers, if even that. But I think it makes up for that with its airtime. Like you'd think it would just be regular RMC airtime, but it's been hauling so much years. Not opening year. It seemed pretty bad opening year.
I can confirm that.
But 2017, when I wrote it, pretty crazy. Like the first hill.
Yeah, like quality over quantity with this one.
Yeah, there's not as much airtime quantity-wise, but the quality is pretty crazy. Like the first hill, that's the closest I've ever found airtime to be. I found anything to be to El Toro. Like El Toro, which is later on the list, has like sustained ejector airtime, which isn't a very common thing you find. Storm Chaser is the closest I've found to that. Like it's ejector airtime and it lasts for pretty long. Like I thought Twisted Timbers would have that with its 3 hills, which it does, but not to this degree.
So like not even your next coach on the list has the same sustained ejector that you're talking about. Or did you forget about that?
It's close, but not this close.
Okay, all right. That's something to think about.
But then as the ride goes on, like the ending after that second into the airtime hill, you can see in the picture that airtime hill and the trick track double up and the 2 hills after that are some of the strongest ejector. The strongest ejector like ever. And they're short. Like it's not sustained, but it really throws you around. I mean, I got bruises on my legs.
That's how you know it's a good ride right there. Very good.
That unbanked turn into the brakes is probably some of the strongest laterals to exist. It kind of hurt my neck, but that's okay.
Awesome. Speaking of pain, number 2. What is it?
Number 2 is Skyrush, which I actually rode recently. 14 days ago, 2 weeks ago. Skyrush. A lot about this over the years as well. This is a great ride. It's short, kind of like Storm Chaser. The quality is pretty high up there.
Yeah.
Storm Chaser almost has just as good of airtime, if not even better, honestly. But Skyrush still has amazing airtime. It's not the most sustained airtime ever. And it's some of the strongest airtime out there. And that certainly the restraints help. Because they really don't.
I feel like what's really setting it apart from 3, though, is the intensity, right?
About to get into, because Storm Chaser, it has crazy airtime, but it doesn't like offer insane positive Gs or anything like that.
Yeah.
It has the first turn is really intense, and all the others are as well. So you go from getting shoved into your seat, ejected really powerfully out of your seat in a matter of a second, basically.
Yeah. I feel like RMCs don't really focus on the intensity, and I'm pretty sure everybody can agree on that, which is why rides, like Intimins tend to, like the top class Intimins tend to rank higher just because they offer more. It seems to be that way with a lot of people.
For sure.
RMCs kind of have an illusion of intensity just because of how fast a lot of the elements happen one after the other. But as for positive Gs,
intense.
Yeah, like that isn't real intensity. Intensity is
not
positive Gs, like
but
Skyrush.
As for positive Gs, they don't offer a whole lot in general.
Yeah, like Skyrush has the 5 Gs at the bottom of the first drop. Like that's real intensity.
Probably like the best balance.
Yeah. People are always throwing intensity around, the word intensity, saying, "Oh yeah, Maverick single dives are intense." It's not really intense. It's just like an insane whip of laterals. That's the way I see it. But yeah.
And Skyrush has great laterals too.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about the single
dive and the one banked airtime hill where it twists at the top right before the end. That gives some pretty crazy laterals as well.
Yeah, very solid, very solid. All right, And number 1 can only be
Toro. Surprise. Toro.
Yeah.
I mean, Skyrush and El Toro are pretty close, honestly, but Skyrush is more intense, but El Toro still has the positives for sure. El Toro better is the kind of ejector it has. The strongest ejector, except the Rolling Thunderhill. That's strong ejector.
Yeah, and it's all just so sustained, I hear. So
El Toro has a sustained ejector, which and done very many rides. Like it's like Floater, it lasts for a long time, but you're getting ejected the entire time. Like those first 2 hills, you're getting thrown out of your seat for a long amount of time.
yeah,
It offers the strength and airtime that something like Skyrush offers as well. There's the positives. It has one of the best drops to exist. I forgot to mention that Skyrush has a really crazy drop.
yeah. Like Intimins, I feel like do drops better than RMCs sometimes. Like I'd probably say that.
I mean,
Intimins have better drops.
Twisted Timbers and Storm Chaser, they barely have a drop. It barely exists, but they're fun.
Yeah, like RMCs seem to capitalize on fun and like airtime versus an insanely good ride like Intamin. So, but obviously fun is good too. So, it seems to depend on how like your preference. So, all right.
I don't want to go on and on about El Toro too much because I feel like that's gonna happen.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about it a bunch. So, all right, now let's get into some more interesting lists here with some lower counts.
Yeah.
All right. So Dylan, narrate your list.
Okay, so number 10. I really have nothing to say about this, to be honest. It's like I can't put it any higher and I can't put it any lower. It's just there. There's really nothing like great about this ride. It's just, I guess the tunnel's cool. You could say that.
If you guys didn't guess it already, it was Hades 360.
Yes.
You didn't say it yet. Yeah.
I would actually say the name of the ride before you start talking about it.
Yeah, man.
Or maybe
come
give it
on.
like a
Looking at the
little
slide.
3-second intro first.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I don't want to have to lead you in every slide now. I mean, I did introduce you, but I don't have to introduce your own top 10. So
Yeah, that's true. All right, and here we have Gatekeeper at Cedar Point, Ohio. So I don't know how to say about this either. It's like it has a great drop. I love the drop.
Intense.
The keyholes. Yeah, it is kind of intense. The keyholes, that's a fantastic element. I found that really fun. It actually does have a rattle in the back row, which people would disagree with for some reason, but
definitely does.
it's just
Yeah.
fact. It does have
Yeah.
a rattle in the back row. Beautiful color scheme. It's probably my favorite color scheme at Cedar Point. That's pretty unpopular, but it's fantastic. It's a beautiful coaster. And look at those trains.
Yeah, it's a great looking ride. Actually, I personally, because we're not going to talk about Gatekeeper anymore because your credit count isn't too high, but I find the roll behind the keyholes to be the best part of the ride. I feel like the whip there, it kind of catches you off guard, especially towards the back rows. I really like it in this ride. It's kind of something I've always overlooked, the laterals and into these inversions.
I feel like that could have been executed so much better though, because most other wing coasters you see the flat inline roll. It feels like that, but just screwed up.
A very gradual hill while you're doing the inversion.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It's weird.
Screwed up equals good.
Yeah, screwed up is always good. And speaking of screwed up, here's number 8 on your list. Sorry, I had to do it.
Back when I rode this, Mamba. It's Mamba at Worlds of Fun. Back when I rode this, I had so much room with those restraints that I had like really great floater on that first hill and like the actual decent airtime on the hills at the end, surprisingly. And night rides on these on Mamba is actually really good. Like especially in that helix where you feel like you can touch the grass. It's just fantastic. I love it. I love this ride at night. Same with Timberwolf, very underrated.
Yeah, I feel like the Morgan hypers are like never talked about, but they're probably better than some B&M hypers.
They are. I'll add with the restraints Mamba has, like this is a fun challenge to do. Go airborne and keep yourself like standing on the hill. You can literally
Yes.
stand through the helix. Like you're actually
Yes.
standing on a helix. There's
What?
so much pressure on your body. It's such a bizarre experience. And like Mamba's the only coaster you can do it on because
I
like
love
Steel Forces, a helix doesn't do it right, and Wild Thing doesn't have it. So like Mamba is hilariously fun just for that aspect, but it's hard to do because it hurts your body and you have to get the restraint loose.
That's unique though. To be able to stand during a helix, I want to try this now.
So, yeah.
And all right,
Number 7 is Blue Streak. Pretty surprising, you'd think, right?
nah, this is an awesome
front
ride.
row
Are you
is-
kidding me?
Front row is pretty good. Like I had some great airtime on it. It wasn't rough at all, for me at least. I didn't
That's
find
not
like the
rough.
roughness to be that like I don't know what to call it, just overwhelming. And it doesn't ruin the experience. Great airtime. That's what I have to say about it.
Yeah, it's definitely an underrated gem at Cedar Point for
Yeah.
sure.
Also no lines, so hey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and now you are the guru of this ride.
Number
Next
6,
ride.
Monster. Yes.
You just love talking about it for some reason. You're Mr. Iowa. Aren't
Sure, I guess. So here we have number 6, Monster. So good hang time, especially when you don't get stapled on this ride. It's fantastic. Like the loop where it like hangs you over. It depends on what like you just really have to get the right operators to like not get stapled. When you don't get stapled on this ride, and I think if I rode it later in the day without getting stapled, I think I would have a fantastic ride. Because later in the day, this ride pool is actually pretty decent positive Gs, and we're keeping the hang time, which I love.
Yeah, it's got like everything really, like intense inversions and intense
Yes,
intense hang time. It's very
hang
unique,
time
I
is
think.
great.
But Brad, you have an opinion on this ride, a strong one.
Mediocrity at its finest, pretty much. Well, Garth's restraints nowadays are like awful. Like I don't even get it. People complain about Skyrush's restraints, but imagine having these restraints on Skyrush. It would be even worse. Like that's my opinion on the restraints. So it does like if you have horrible restraints on a ride that is supposed to be floaty,
Yeah,
it just
Yeah.
takes away from it because the airtime is too weak for horrible restraints to even allow for airtime.
see Gatekeeper, because best suck.
Yeah, vests do suck.
I mean,
They do suck.
Gatekeeper's solid, just the restraints.
But that's a pretty general
yeah.
consensus about being
Yeah, it is generalized. Yeah. All right, but speaking of B&M, here's an awesome
Number
one.
5, Raptor. Yes, I love myself some Raptor.
Yes.
Especially that last helix. Oh my god, I love that last helix so much.
Andrew
It's just-
Barshak would be so proud right now, man.
Yes, oh, fantastic. It's just an overall intense ride. It's just a great B&M invert.
Yeah,
Way better than
it's-
Patriot Once a Fun, like by miles, because Patriot is completely mediocre. So
I'd probably say it's among the worst of the B&M inverts right there, like top 3 worst for sure.
yeah, I can see where that coming from.
Yeah, but like this thing is a whip and just consistent
Yes.
intensity. It's just got all that you'd
It's
want.
great.
Yeah, and now a ride that's not Raptor.
Number 4, Magnum. Not painful at all, except for like the last hills. Like when you're going to like that I don't even know what to call it, pretzel
the
Is that the,
butterfly
um,
turnaround.
butterfly turnaround thing.
Butterfly, yeah, that works.
I was hearing all these things about how painful it was. It was not painful at all. It really didn't do anything, but like it wasn't painful at all. The view for Magnum, I love the view of
It
the
is really
beautiful
good.
hotel, the beautiful hotel right next to it. And that first drop is actually great. The airtime at the end, well, self-explanatory. It's fantastic. The
Yeah.
restraints do hurt on those last hills, but who cares about pain when you have great airtime like that?
Yeah, the restraints, they do a pretty good job of stapling and like painfully stapling you. I think I'm a fan of the airtime, but the rest of the ride doesn't really do anything for me. So I can't really rank it too high. It's just I'm kind of a weenie when it comes to pain on roller coasters. So like when the airtime hurts, but it's so fun, great views and everything. So yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, number 3, Prowler. Good airtime for sure. I love the sensation of speed to get on this ride. Like, if you've ridden a GCI, do the other GCIs have that sensation of speed, like Mystic Timbers? If you have,
Oh yeah, love
I
Mystic
would say
Timbers
so,
for that.
yes,
I'd say so. Prowler does it better than some of the other ones.
yes, it's
I think
actually
the
amazing.
wooded terrain helps a lot. Though.
Yeah, like at night, I'm
Yes.
sure it's great.
Oh, it's fantastic night ride.
Mm-hmm. Not really much else to say about this ride. I like the restraints. I don't really think people talk about enough.
They give you a lot more room
Yes.
than like, well, I guess wooden coaster trains tend to be nicer than steel, but there's not a whole lot of bad wooden coaster restraints. But yeah, I think it's just got like some great ejector, mixed in with everything.
Yeah, towards the end,
there's like three bunny hills with like a laterals and like in the middle of it. Looks great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, very solid ride. And then some stereotypical intimateness. What do you have?
Love me some intimate. Number 2, Millennium Force. Now, this is just a ride. I used to put Prowler above this, believe it or not, but I was like, no, this really can't. So how I feel about Millennium Force is like it's just a ride where like it's just so amazing. Like it's just iconic and it's like it's just unique. It's like I don't think it's that intense. Like the turnarounds, like people say like they're gray out on the first turnaround. I did not experience really anything. It's even the back row, just nothing. It has a good floater though. Good floater.
Well, the trick is to be dehydrated. That's the trick.
Ah, yes.
Like,
Well, that
if
always
you
helps.
yeah,
Nearly
see,
blacked out on
always.
Dragon.
Look, if my dad can gray out on Diamondback, anyone can gray out on Millennium Force when
God.
they're dehydrated.
Yes. And as Bradley says, this has the best theme of almost any coaster.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
Brad.
it does.
Elaborate on that. Why don't you?
Okay, so Millennium Force's theme, all the people say it doesn't have a theme. It has 2 tunnels, and those tunnels are pretty much time travel portals, and then you time travel over, go over an airtime hill. This dinosaur's alive. You travel back in time to dinosaur era. You do your turns, do your other hill. You go back, and now back in present day. Unintentional time travel theming. Pretty good.
Nice.
Like,
Moved.
that's awesome.
Nice.
Thank you for that, Brad.
All right. Number
You're
1.
welcome.
I think you all know what it is. It's Maverick. Fantastic drop in the back row. Absolutely amazing.
Amazing, dude.
Amazing positive G's. Fantastic airtime. Their inversions are okay. I think my favorite part of the ride, it was not even the Stangle dives. It was just second launch. It's fantastic, incredible.
yeah.
Everything about it is so good. I
Now-
love, like, especially like at the end of the launch where you get snapped to the left. Oh, it's
that's
so good.
awesome. Yeah. You said intense positive G's. I don't really know about that.
Really?
Like
I felt
where are the positives like super strong on Maverick? I really can't
I'm
pinpoint
not saying
any
super
of that.
strong, but you really feeling like at the beginning, like at the first drop,
I guess
and then like,
Yeah.
like after the second launch too. That's why I felt them.
I know what he's talking
They're there.
about, but I don't know if they're really
Like,
strong.
I mean, it's obviously not going to be comparable to like Goliath at Magic Mountain's Helix or like or Raptor's final Helix. Like I can't really pinpoint any kind of insane positive G's on
I
Maverick.
think, Adam, you're now getting to this mindset that like you can't have strong positive G's that lead to laterals. Like you can have strong positive G's that are happening with laterals at the same time. That doesn't mean that's just laterals. Like Maverick's first turns are definitely intense, even though they're lateral based. That's still intense.
Well, yeah,
So
like
positive G's.
yeah, it's just weird to think about. I don't know. I
You have a very
I need to.
this like new like way you're judging coasters is kind of flawed.
Yeah. Oh no, you're probably right. It's just I'm just trying to think of it one dimensionally, which is probably not the way to think about it. But
You can't just split everything. Like things morph and kind of get messy. And
that's
the
true.
interesting part of being a coaster enthusiast is there's no like here's like the set rules of how to judge a coaster. Like there's
Yeah.
set like rules of how to solve a math equation or to do chemistry. There's set rules. There is no such thing. It's very preference based, and what people almost like view as intense varies on the person even. That's I guess what makes judging coasters fun.
Yeah.
After that semi-inspirational lesson for Brad, let's move on.
We just got deep, man.
There's gonna be more of that.
That's what we're all about here at the Coaster Cat. All right, Ryan, your list is next. What do you have to say for yourself?
Not much on some rides that we've already covered. I'm probably gonna speed through because don't want to waste too much time there.
This first ride we have not talked about yet, and
that's
we will ever again.
Very, very true. Outlaw Run. I don't know what to say about this ride. It's really, I believe it was my second RMC. People say that it's rough. I don't think that it's rough.
I say that it's rough.
Yeah, Brad thinks that it's rough, but I thought the airtime on this ride was great. Obviously, that's what RMC is all about. Those two barrel rolls at the end, they're not necessarily whippy, but they're just like, it's fun. It's cool. Same thing with that first overbank turn. That one's a little bit more snappy, but it's fun. It's not necessarily intense. And I think that's what RMC is really all about. It's about airtime and the fun factor.
Yeah, and I feel like this is a much shorter ride than a lot of others.
It does feel short, yes. I would agree with that.
So
I think, a lot of RMCs feel that way, I guess.
I'm gonna defend my point quickly. I make a big deal of Outlaw Run being Outlaw Rough because it's easily the roughest RMC. Now, if you compare it to like an average wood coaster, still fine. Like it's still in the upper. It's probably in the top like 20, maybe in the. I don't think top 10 percentile, but the top 20 percentile of smoothest wood coasters like in the world. So it's still a really smooth wood coaster. It's just compared to the other RMC wood coasters, and especially compared to other RMCs, there's something noticeably rougher about it.
All right.
I blow it out of proportion.
Yes, you do. All right, number 9, Storm Chaser. Now, don't get mad at me. I rode this with the nylon wheels, not the polyurethanes. So, it was good. Obviously, it's in my top 10. It had strong airtime still, especially that first hill. The barrel drop is great. Although it does really, like, again, I rode it with nylons. It really crawled through that second half. That's what.
Like you probably couldn't enjoy the trick track double up. Like it was probably just
it was like weak ejector there. It wasn't like what it looks like now. It looks like insane, trying to literally throw you out of your seat.
Second half of the ride is like the best part now.
Yeah, I'm excited though. I get to re-ride it.
Nice.
Moving on, I guess, number 8, Millennium Force. We've already talked about this a lot. It's a fun ride. Not very intense, Millennium Forceless, I guess, but still, has some good airtime. The turns are fun. Brad brought up the time travel theme.
Yeah, we've covered like everything there is to cover in this ride, man.
Yeah. It's better than Fury, let's be honest here.
Whoa. Have you even been on Fury, dude?
Number 7, Montu.
That's a good response. Montu is my response. With a yes or no question.
All right, number 7 is Montu. Now, this is insanity in a B&M. This is insane.
Crazy.
That, especially the first half, like we talked about. That second half gets a little bit weaker, but the first half is just, it's almost impossible to describe. That 0G roll is absolutely amazing. The Batwing is probably in my top like 3 whippiest moments on a roller coaster ever.
It's up there for sure.
It's very high up there. The vertical loop, very solid. The entire ride is solid all the way through, and it just doesn't stop until that mid-course. And then, even then, it doesn't, like, meander. It still has some pacing, but it's not, like, crazy like the first half of the ride.
Okay.
So, I guess number 6, Kumba, also at Busch Gardens, Tampa.
So unlike Justin, you prefer Montu to Kumba, or
Kumba to Montu, yes.
All the way around, yeah.
Yes. So, I thought Kumba was actually more intense, which is really tough to do. Especially with Montu being second most intense BNM I've been on. They're very, very close. I was really unsure, and I still am unsure, but that zero G roll, my God.
Looks so good.
It is. It might be my favorite inversion. I think it is. It's so snappy, like especially in the back row. It's so snappy.
And when you ride it Superman style, and you have your arm outside the train, and you kind of feel like your arm is kind of getting like moved around in its socket. It's an interesting experience.
I'm sure. And this ride doesn't really slow down like Montu does. It stays consistently fast throughout the entire ride, even after the
Yeah, it's got that final helix that Montu doesn't really have.
Yeah, the final helix is severely underrated on this
ride.
ride.
It seems to end with the bang when Montu really doesn't. I mean, I guess the corkscrew is pretty good, but
I think
it doesn't have the helix.
Comes like the difference maker is Kumba has weaker inversions. Like a Batwing is pretty much always going to beat a Cobra roll. I rather have a second vertical loop than a corkscrew. And then Kumba is showing its age and roughness a little more than Montu, where like am I wrong? I don't think there's like any headbanging on Montu. I can't think of any. There is a little bit on Kumba though. There is a little bit. It's not bad, but it's there. You can't deny it.
Yeah.
And really, with B&M roughness, in my experience, you can just keep your head back and you're fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're awesome. So
yeah. All right, number 5, X2.
I'm happy.
Who doesn't love X2? This is definitely my favorite first drop. I think I was talking about it with Brad earlier. I think this is my favorite first drop. The entire ride, if you don't know what's coming, like you don't have the seat rotations memorized or anything, it's nuts. Like you have no idea where you're going, what direction you're facing. It's great. And especially when you get to ride it with fire and audio both working, that just makes it a more complete experience.
And then you can add the cherry on top of all that. You get all that at night. There you go.
So you guys love X2. You think it's crazy. I agree. I think it's crazy. But I also think it's super jerky and terrible.
See, that's the thing about it. You talked about it earlier. It depends on your tolerance for that kind of thing. Especially, like, sitting on the inside seat is obviously going to be a better experience, especially with somebody sitting outside of you. But
yeah, I was a Dumbo, and I took the front outside seat, the worst seat on the ride.
Front outside, what side of the train? Where did you go up the ramp or up the stairs?
Stairs.
Okay. I don't think that's the worst seat, but it's front. It depends on how it's running, though.
Yeah.
Front gets better as the day goes on. Back stays pretty much as good no matter what time of day.
Or it stays pretty consistent throughout the day with 105-degree heat.
It still needs to do like its first 5 runs of the day.
Well, yeah. That heat
That's
also helps with
some
re-rides.
bulky trains. Yeah. It's weird. My absolute favorite X2 rides though are during Fright Fest at 1 in the morning, and it feels like it's only in the 50s, and the fire warms me up. It's actually running in slow motion then.
That's
when you think about it. But it's probably the night ride aspect that
I'm sure
more than counteracts the slowness factor.
Yeah, I feel like for some people the roughness just contributes to the intensity. Like everybody says, roughness can add to intensity, and I don't really see where it's coming from. But
I don't know about that on this ride, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I just can't imagine X2 not being rough as hell.
You can I've had some really smooth rides on.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be just amazing, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, number 4, Maverick. We've already talked about this a bunch. This is literally on, spoiler alert, this is on everyone's list here. So we're not going to stop talking about it, but...
Hey, I'll say partial spoiler, it's barely on my list.
Ooh.
Skin of its teeth.
This is the king of diversity, like we've been saying. It has everything you could possibly want besides good inversions. They're not great inversions, but you know what? Whatever.
I mean,
Rest of the ride.
I feel like we always roast the inversions. They're really not bad at all. They have whip carries. They do what Maverick is good at doing. So, you know, like Ryan Cannon Coaster fan always roasts Maverick for the inversions, and everybody always talks about it like how you just did, and I disagree. I don't think the inversions are really weak at all. Like if anything's a weak part of the ride, it's the part that's pictured, and it just kind of does a nice big turnaround.
It's actually an intense turnaround, though, in my mind.
It is intense actually, but you know, like the trim lifts up there, they're barely trimmed.
Yeah, I think what it is let's say every aspect of like Maverick's a 9 out of 10. There are betters, but you add everything up for the complete package. The inversions might be like a 8 out of 10 if you're generous, maybe 7 out of 10. So there's still good inversions, but when every other aspect's better. And I actually think the issue with Maverick and how it's the jack of all trades is I think you threw all the elements in a blender, but it didn't get blended perfectly. I think that's actually where the flaws of Maverick turn up.
Yeah, I hear you're saying. Like
transitioning from elements.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're going to give 2 inversions back to back, and then 2 single dives back to back, and then 2 turns back to back. But instead of, like those all over the place. I mean, the only thing they seemed to get right was the airtime hills, one in the beginning, one in the second half.
Yeah.
Like now I really, really break apart the order of elements in Maverick, because, Maverick seems to have, like, pretty defined elements throughout the ride.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
It's like someone gave you an appetizer. You go to a restaurant, you got your chicken wings, you got your mozzarella sticks, you got potato skins, and they're like, instead of here, eat like half a potato skin, then have a bite of chicken, then you have that one piece of the one celery stick, and you kind of just eat everything a little bit at a time. They're like, here, you have to eat the 2 mozzarella sticks first, then you can have the celery stick, and you have to eat all the aspects of your appetizer in this certain order, and it's kind of just weird.
It is
doing that.
Yeah, but I guess it's like if it's your first time riding, there's like so much to enjoy and be surprised by.
And looking past that, it's like every element is done insanely well, so it's very easy to look past the mishmashed jumble of order that these elements are. But
yeah, all right. So we always do a very good job of going in depth with Maverick. And
yeah,
man, that was like super in depth. I love it. All right.
Number 3. This is gonna surprise some people. Twisted Colossus.
Yeah, it's fine. It's respectable.
As a number 1 steal, I feel like this is an odd choice, but I feel like actually how many times you ride this ride has a factor. Riding this 23 times in one single day without Flash Pass, that there's no way I can I can try to look past that, but it just won't happen. This ride is so insanely fun. The airtime is amazing. That 0G roll on the blue side is one of the most whippy RMC elements, like, by far. The other inversion, the 0G stall, Top Gun stall, is also really good. Airtime. That's all this ride is meant for.
Yeah, it's really got the quantity over like Maverick or something.
Yeah,
it's got so much of it because you go around twice. Pretty crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. I guess moving on. Number 2, Lightning Rod. I'm glad I get to talk about this ride. This before a couple weeks ago was my number 1, and it may end up as my number 1 again. I'm rewriting it, but opening year Lightning Rod was just the most insane experience I think I've had. That quad down, it feels like the ride is trying to kill you.
That's the way we like it here.
Yeah, it's just insanity. This ride is every RMC's airtime except stronger, like way stronger,
and way more of it.
Exactly. That's what I'm really grateful that Dollywood decided not to put inversions on this and call it a family coaster, because it wound up being better than it probably would have had it had inversions on it.
That's true.
If you want
Yeah,
airtime
like-
on a ride, just ride Lightning Rod.
Yeah, like imagine if the wave turn was replaced with like a freaking silly, stall or something. Like I'd rather have a wave turn.
Definitely.
The wave turn is awesome from my experience, even though I didn't ride this. I was on another RMC, but yeah, Skyrush airtime is awesome, and it's underrated, I think. But all right,
And number 1, earlier, a certain someone talked about this ride going from number 2 to number 6. Well, recently this one's gone from number 2 to number 1.
ooh,
In the opposite direction there. So, before, a couple weeks ago, Voyage was my number 2, behind Lightning Rod. And I had just ridden it during the day, probably had about a similar experience to Skylar. Solid ride. Intense, obviously. Keeps its speed the whole way through, even with that mid-course cutting it off, it just regains that speed immediately. The second half is nuts. The first half is obviously the weakest part. But then Hollywood Nights, I have to take it into account. Brad's going to talk about it. He doesn't. But Voyage during Hollywood Nights is probably the craziest, the most insane, the most fun experience you can possibly have on any roller coaster in the world right now. Ever.
100% agreed with that.
I mean, Holiday World is such a unique place, and especially with the event that they put on, like nowhere else in the world do they let you ride a ride trimless because you're an enthusiast at like midnight. It's the airtime is so much stronger in the second half. It's so much more intense even at night. Like the first half is leaps and bounds better than it is during the day. That spaghetti bowl section in the back there, I think during the nighttime that's my favorite part of the ride. Just because you get thrown side to side and you don't know where you're getting thrown to because you can't see anything.
And no matter how many times, and you probably had the same, no matter how many times you ride it, it doesn't get you still are like confused. You can't still tell what's going on, and it never gets stale. And I think all of us should probably agree to this, or I would hope. That's like a true sign of an excellent coaster. You can ride it over and over and over again, and it doesn't get boring. It doesn't get stale.
I literally had to take 5-minute breaks. Like after riding this, I had to sit down and like try and process what happened. I still hadn't fully processed this ride until probably the Tuesday or the Wednesday after the event.
Oh, you didn't have what I did, where I rode with some guy like 30 times in a row with like literally zero break with a headache. I was like, this is just too good of an experience. You can't pass it. Like any minute not riding this is a complete waste of time.
If only.
dang.
If only I had the mental strength to do that.
I still wasted time. That's why I can't wait to go back. And I'm literally gonna like get to the park Saturday at 10 a.m. until midnight. I'm not even I don't even want to eat. I'm gonna just ride. 14 hours. The only breaks is there's that there's the drink stall right there. I'm gonna get some pink lemonade every once in a while. And if I really have to go to the bathroom, I'll find I think there's a restroom right there as well.
Yeah.
There's also trees, dude. There's trees too.
And if you ever really need to cool off,
I'm gonna get
Gobbler's Getaway.
I was just gonna say, yeah, Gobbler's Getaway is worth it. It's worth your time.
It is. I recorded an on-ride POV of that, Adam. It's definitely.
That's legit, dude. That's awesome.
not bad.
Nice. All right. So yeah, Holiday World, they really understand enthusiasts, and I really hope I get out there this year. So all right, let's move on to my list. Now I get to talk a whole bunch. This will be exciting. So my number 10 is Raptor over at Cedar Point. I love me some nice old B&M whippiness and awesome. I actually ranked this right above Banshee, probably just because of the whip. I love me some whip, and really there isn't too much headbanging. The whip, there's a big difference between whip and headbang, and whip is just awesome, and there's a lot of it on this ride. And obviously you got like awesome positive intense positive G's inversions and stuff like that. And the final helix, it's not that common where a ride ends off with like its strongest element, but Raptor succeeds with that, and you feel it in your feet, and it's really, really great, especially when you're not dehydrated and you're about to black out. So, yeah, there you go. There's Raptor, and dude, does anybody want to add on that? I think Raptor is just perfectly solid old DNN invert. No issues, right?
It is.
I'll agree. It's perfectly solid. Not perfectly excellent though.
Like it's not, I can definitely see how an invert like Montu or Katoon is better, but yeah, Raptor, it's pretty much the like cookie cutter solid VM invert. I feel like, and I'm probably the Helix is the main deciding factor as why it's better than Banshee for me, because Banshee obviously has, I feel like Banshee's inversions are more intense, but Raptor just seems to, the whippiness added in to make everything better. So, yeah.
Can't talk about Raptor without the Helix at the end.
Yeah, the Helix is just way too good. All right. Now, my number 9 is pretty questionable. I hope I can get out here this year, but here's Shivering Timbers, a coaster that is barely talked about. And it makes sense why. It's at, park with like nothing, and it's just hills. So what's there not to love? In a very unknown park and a very unknown, strange coaster. And I guess from what I know about this ride and can kind of recall, the airtime isn't that great, but there's so much of it that you kind of just have to love it. And Brad, you've been on this. What can you say about it?
It was really cold the day I went. I think there were more employees than guests in the park.
God.
There were probably most of the time the train is dispatching was, I'm not even joking, 4 to 6 people. It was that day, it was a droggy day where it was like it could have started raining any second. I really enjoyed it, but I wanted a little more in the airtime department, and I do think if I went back and rewrote it on a warm sunny day, there's actually more than 10 people in the park, it'd probably be a much better ride.
Yeah. And also you were always talking about how you hated the trick track.
Yeah, I thought the trick track is just completely out of place. Like, if there were multiple elements of like this weirdness, but no, it's like we're going straight. No, we're just gonna bank you to the side violently and then put you back straight in line. It's like
like they already have like a great like slam of laterals and Helix at the end of the ride. You think they wouldn't need to implement that strange element. That's really never really all that useful. But I mean, it was interesting at least.
I guess.
All right, so that's something I'd definitely love to get back to confirm its ranking. So that's kind of a placeholder. It's kind of moved down a little bit.
Looking in comparison, this is El Toro, but a worse manufacturer and a worse layout.
Yeah, it's basically just the CCI El Toro, but like a much more basic and coded down version. All right, my number 8 is I've kind of been moving this around lately. Everybody's always talking about how Tots is lame and boring. But I remember it being like stupidly fun and graceful, and I like the gracefulness in this one. It isn't really like the gracefulness of Banshee. It's more of just like you're flying, and that's awesome. Flying coasters are awesome. But obviously, the only reason why this is anywhere near my top 10 is the pretzel loop. I think like that's undoubtedly the best part of any flying coaster in the U.S. Probably, right? I think so. Yeah, it's insane, crazy good, positive G's, and yeah. But it being my first flying coaster, I just love this sensation of flying and everything. It's all really, really awesome.
Be
but
prepared to be disappointed by the other flyers in the U.S.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, every flyer in the U.S. has the pretzel loop though, so like I always have something to look forward to, I guess. But yeah, but the other versions on this ride are pretty solid anyway. Like I recall just kind of having a blast, flying through the air, sun in my eyes. It was like I was a Tatsu flying in the sky. All right, that's enough. Number 7, it was Diamondback over at Kings Island, and I was pretty underwhelmed with this ride. I feel like I might be ranking it too high now. Gosh, what's happened? Can't decide on my own ranking, but it's because these BMs are just they're really silly. I always feel like floater airtime is pretty overrated. Like yeah, it's sustained, but it isn't really quite very strong. Diamondback seemed to have stronger floater airtime than like say Millennium Force, but I feel like I mean, it's just got so much of it. You kind of get bored, honestly. I mean, it's just same old, same old. The Helix is solid, I guess, and like you get some pretty strong airtime after that too. The splashdown's cool, but really, I want something more. I want something unpredictable, and that's why my number 6 is Mystic Timbers. Man, that's right. I'm just skipping right into it. I love Mystic Timbers. This thing is so freaking cool. You just got some insanely awesome pacing, like seriously perfect pacing. There's like, it's just so good. And actually, I think the best part of the ride is at the very end. A highly admirable trait for a coaster to have, something like Raptor, where it ends off awesome. You get this awesome pop of airtime and a very small pop of airtime that I didn't even know existed. And then it's amazing slam of laterals. And then the true best part of the ride, the shed. Everybody loves the shed, right?
Apparently, there's a 4th scene, so I guess
apparently there is. That's interesting. This ride's awesome. For the woods, it's got the whole Prowler thing going on, where I'm sure Night Ride's awesome. I haven't got one yet, and also the Millennium Flyer restraints are great. You can get some really nice room. Front row is where to sit on this ride, I think.
I have the greatest idea now. I want the reverse of the shed to be built, where a coaster is completely like indoors, and then just the brake run is outside. No,
that would be.
No one likes that idea.
Inverse shed.
Yeah. The entire ride is in a shed, and the brake run's outside.
What's outside?
Just the brake run.
Just the brake run.
Outside? Oh, okay, that's cool.
What's outside the shed?
What's outside the shed?
We can
All
see
right,
it.
now let's have some serious fun talking about the 8th best wooden coaster in the U.S. It is the legendary Swamp Fox coaster at
May I
Family
ask
Kingdom.
for your source of 8th best wooden coaster in the U.S.?
The
And
legendary.
what year is this from?
Okay,
Like, what
it's
year?
it's probably like the year it opened, so that there were like eight wooden roller coasters in the U.S. and they said, yeah, this is legendary, this is amazing. We're gonna put the sign on it, and unfortunately that sign is gone. It's been updated and it doesn't say that anymore. It just says the legendary Swamp Fox coaster.
I wonder why.
Okay, you suck. You all suck. This coaster's amazing. It's got buzz bars, which means it's amazing. And if it's got any kind of anything below 0 Gs, you're pretty much bound to have an amazing ride, because any kind of airtime is just awesome, and this thing has so much of it, in my opinion. You can shut up, Brad.
Okay, fine.
Like
Sure.
every hill, every like pop into a turnaround, like you just get some seriously good airtime. There's nothing else to say besides that this ride's awesome, and it should not be a meme. I kind of just memed it up, actually, adding that thing to it. Oh, and also the final turn is a great slam of laterals too. It's also got some intensity that nobody's ever talked about. It's just got everything I just love in a roller coaster, man. Yeah,
So,
Adam, quit
awesome.
overhyping this piece of junk to
So,
these people.
as you can tell, we're going to have a lot of Swamp Fox roasting here. Anyone who thought that was only like a T-Sac thing, or just, the other Ryan and I being mean to Adam, no, that's going to continue.
That's
This is
just us and
this-
Swamp Fox.
This is just the first taste of it. Expected to kind of be, pretty much like a once episode ritual. We'll roast Adam for his opinion on Swamp Fox.
I feel like once I ride more buzz bar coasters, this thing will just kind of fall into oblivion, and it'll just be like, yeah, Phoenix Coaster is where it's at. Coaster at Playland. Like those are the real buzz bars that I would love to get to at some point. So, but yeah, so that's enough Swamp Fox talk for today. I'm sorry, everybody.
That was enough for the rest of my life, to actually be honest.
All right, number 4 is going to be Millennium Force. I'm tired of talking about this ride. It's fun. It's by a lake. It has a great view that nobody's talked about yet, I don't think. It also has a very speedy lift hill, speedy operations, a great experience all around. It's just a very speedy ride.
Can we talk about one of the best aspects of the ride once you're done?
The time travel, we've already talked about that.
No. It has actually like good station music.
It does.
Oh, it does.
Something.
Yeah.
And you can smell the Panda Express from the ride. Are you telling me that's not a positive aspect?
I mean, yeah.
It is a positive aspect. I don't like notice smells at parks though, so.
Yeah.
I'm like nose deaf or whatever that Febreze
Nose
commercial
blind.
says. No, nose blind, yeah.
All right. Let's move on to Twisted Colossus. It's my number 3. Picture here is at the top install. My favorite part of the ride. You get whip into hang time into whip, and it's awesome. And there's just so much airtime. The quantity is definitely over quality for this one, I'd say. But that isn't a big issue when you get 2 lift hills, 2 drops, which you don't really talk about. You got dueling, which you didn't talk about earlier, Ryan. And I just think this ride just does everything so well.
I didn't get many dueling rides. This is why I didn't really talk about it that much.
I got 3 out of 4. I got 2 rides on it. 3 out of 4 of them had a duel. So
I got a solid 4 out of 23 on that one day.
Well, I mean it was
Pretty
dead,
good.
so that makes sense. But yeah, the 2 inversions are awesome, and the high 5 is a lot of fun. Just everything's here, as far as airtime and laterals goes. It's got a lot of things that are awesome. So, all right, number 2, Maverick. It kind of seems like Maverick and Twisted Colossus swapped around for a lot of us that have ridden both, and I just love this. Seriously, this is probably among my favorite coasters, along with Swamp Fox and Raptor, just because of the laterals and airtime. It's the variety featured here. The drop, it's by far the best drop I've been on. The launch is probably my current favorite launch. The single dives, just best laterals I've experienced. The second one especially, you get hang time while you're being whipped around. It's just so amazing. So yeah, that's enough fanboying. Number 1. Speaking of fanboying, let's not fanboy over Steel Vengeance. I'm the only one who's been on it, and it's really awesome. But yeah, so I stopped there. You're gonna have to cut that there, Ryan. All right. So Steel Vengeance, this thing just sustained ejector. This is probably the best airtime I've experienced as of now. The first element, you get laterals into sustained ejector, not the strongest ejector, but sustained ejector, and you get laterals right out of it. It's just super awesome. So very, very awesome stuff. And then every element, I feel like the elements around the mid-course brake run, and then just the rest of the ride, it feels like the first part of the ride is sustained elements, and after that you just got strong pops of airtime. There's a wave turn, there's some crazy inversions, just awesome whip, amazing laterals too. Out of one of the inversions, you get some crazy awesome laterals. It's a really solid ride. So yeah, that'll pretty much finish up my list. So there you go.
Not bad.
Let's let Bradley's credit count now destroy our hopes and dreams of being an
It's all the
enthusiast.
shame.
I'm not trying to do that. I will say, more than likely, if there's a U.S. credit you think, oh, that's not there, most likely been on it. It's not as good as my top 10. Okay. So number 10, Maverick. I don't know really much more to say now because I think it's the only ride that appeared in all 6 of our lists, so I think it's been talked to death already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just moving on. Number 9, Puritan, Joe Summerlin, Denmark. It's small. It looks like Lightning Run, and if you're not a big Lightning Run fan, you're like, oh, crazy. You're a Lightning Run fan, you're like, oh my god, that's awesome now. But this ride, it focuses on airtime, and it delivers non-stop airtime. Every single hill on this ride has airtime, and that's impressive. And I think the best part is the 3 twisted airtime hills in a row where they're so abrupt next to each other. You're still sideways, and then you're now airborne in the opposite direction. So it's I don't know, just very, very, very rapid airtime and just so much fun to ride. So marathonable. It doesn't provide pain. Just huge positive.
How close is this for Maverick for you? How close?
And I'll throw in 11's Twisted Colossus. I even kind of was questioning today what's the order of those 3. They're so close. I actually am giving Puritan the edge over both of them because I'm saying it's the shortest, which should actually be a negative. But I'm like, okay, if this was scaled up any longer, it would actually be it would be better than them. Unquestionably, it's so good for such a small size, and I'm giving it credit for that. but it's super close. Like if someone's like, "Do you want to ride Puritan tomorrow, or Maverick tomorrow?" It'd be a tough decision.
That's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
I like it. Though.
Yeah. Number 8, X2, Magic Mountain. I've been that loyal X2 fanboy. It's what was my number 1 from 2007 until like mid 2014, and then kind of been the sentimental favorite besides as a coaster up ahead pretty much ever since then. So I love this ride. I understand its flaws, and that's the reason it's not my number 1 steel coaster. Even though if I only account for like the absolute like 1 out of 20 perfection rides that you can get on it, it might be the best steel coaster I've been on, or close to it actually. And just fire that crazy first drop, and I've said it before, the only ride where you can literally get airtime where normally it's like you're airborne and your butt's gonna be the first part to land back. No, here it's your shoulder blades are the first part to land back. You're getting airtime while flipping upside down.
Yeah.
You can't get that anywhere in the Western world. So
Well,
Sounds great.
actually, I do think that if you get really lucky on the SNS 40s, that can happen, because I've got an upside down ejector, but it's very, very rare.
yeah, X2 you can get it like almost all the time, pretty much, unless you're like scrunching yourself up like a ball and you're completely nervous and you prevent the ride from being in control. Like I will say to anyone, let X2 control you, not you fight the coaster back. You'll enjoy X2 more. Let it throw you around like a rag doll and just let the ride do what it's going to do to you. Don't fight it. Number 7 might be low for some people. Lightning Rod. I rode it. Reopened like the first week of August in 2016. I rode it. Absolutely loved it right when I rode it, but I think it was part of that thing where like not very many people had been on it yet. I was hyping it up. I had gotten a fireworks night ride with my dad. It was an end to a good trip. It was amazing, but then the more I've thought about it over time, I'll call it the back half, fantastic. I don't like the beginning half that much though. The first drop is like actually like completely average for an RMC drop. The wave turns great, but then like the next like 4 elements until I'd almost call it like a double up leading to the quad down. I don't really care for like any of those elements. They're kind of just turns with maybe like a small hill like morphed into the turn, and just doesn't do it. And that sloppiness, and then I don't like RMC restraints a ton. That's the flaw with Lightning Rod, but that quad down is probably very close, if not like the best airtime sequence on the planet.
Well, yeah, in terms of elements, you can't really count that as one element. It's 4, 5 technically.
Yeah, insane. The little like speed hill.
Back to back to back to back to back.
Yeah, I always have to complain to my dad about that. It's like he's like, "Oh, why don't they call it a quintuple down?" It's like, but that one actually has a little upwards part to it, so it's no longer all like one sequence. Plus, there's like a turn involved in there where it kind of breaks it up. But
and if technically, if you count the step up, 6 airtime moments in a row.
Pretty much that's like there's no ride that pretty much goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row. When I was marathoning at night with my dad, we were having so much fun being like 1, 2, 3, 4, just counting the airtime hills. It was just a fun experience. But a ride that is even more fun than that, number 6, Phoenix at Knoebels.
Thank you for the artwork by TPR.
Thank you, TPR, for good artwork. I don't think there's a more fun coaster on the planet. You're just having fun. You can re-ride this all day. I was riding with what I believe his name's Fox Coaster, and I remember he told me, he's like, yeah, my mom thought you were gonna die because I was like standing up on the ride because you can, and I was just like, I'm gonna let the ride just do what it wants to me. I'm gonna be airborne. I'm gonna make myself even more airborne than I should. And there's so much air for this small, just completely basic, boring looking double out and back Woody, but the buzz bars, the way it's run, and the Knoebels atmosphere, it's just fun and airtime galore.
What's the best seat on Phoenix?
I hear it's what car 1 row 3. I forgot about that when I was there. I probably would say car 1 row 1 was my favorite. I don't think there's that much of a gap on that ride between the front and back. I wasn't as big a fan of the middle cars though, so I don't know. Good ride because you can ride in any seat, and it's pretty much gonna be just as good no matter where you ride it.
You said it's Reddit.
Yep. And number 5, I'd say another kind of jack of all trades ride. No inversions on it, but it has everything else, and that's Toro at Phantasialand. It's just a jumbled mess. There's floater, there's ejector, there's laterals, there's some intense moments, there's launches, there's near misses, and a lot of confusion, and also I'd say like a fair amount of just fun laughter and everything in between. Remember just riding this 3 weeks ago. The second I got off, my dad turned to me and was asking both my mom and I, are like, they were almost kind of like mad at me I didn't hype it up that much, and they're like, this is immediately better than Maverick. This has got more going on. I think even my mom was willing to put it ahead of Skyrush, which is her number 1, and I didn't think that would ever change for her. And then you ride this coaster more. It's not an airtime based coaster, but there's airtime all over the place. Some of those turns, you're like, oh, I'm just going to go left. No, there's also airtime here. And I don't know what else to, I guess, say about it. There's just a lot going on, and POVs don't do it justice. It's a ride you have to ride. Because even if you ride probably 100 times, there's still like some little surprise that's going to surprise you.
How is there a big gap between back row and front row in terms of ride quality?
I'd say front row's quite a bit better, but back row's still really good.
Really?
Yeah. I think for this, it was kind of, when you have like really like large, sustained, powerful airtime, that's when the back row is better. But some of them, when it's almost those smaller surprise hills, the front is benefited by being like pushed. Like, there's certain rides where push-based ejector or push-based floater, either one is better than pull-based. And pull you'll get in the back row, push you'll get in the front row. It's still hard to judge the ride off like 5 rides.
Yes, off the POVs, when you look at like a back row POV, it looks so much better than just a front row POV.
Yeah.
Like miles better.
It's also hard to bring up this ride without the controversy that surrounded it.
I'm thankful for the controversy though.
And I think well, that helped your experience. Like you said, you weren't overhyping it.
Yeah. I wasn't even thinking about the park. I'm like, well, I have to go to Phantasialand. You know, it's a unique park. It's, you know, big 7 coasters that are unique and different. But I wasn't really thinking about it. I think like I had just gone to Europa on holiday, and I was like, okay, Phantasialand. And to an extent, I was already like looking forward towards like Toverland already in Walibi Holland. But no, this park in general, and especially Toronto, are just incredible. And you get to Europe, go ride it. But enough Toronto, it's time to talk about a better Intamin, Skyrush.
Ooh.
The sense of death. I like feeling like I'm gonna die on a coaster. And Skyrush delivers that. And I will probably get hate for this. I think Skyrush is more intense than I-305. I-305 is a turn. Skyrush is consistently intense throughout. There's not a weak moment on this ride. It actually, I believe, I-305's highest positive G's is 4.5. Skyrush is 5. So even from like a simple, just looking at those numbers, it's more intense. And then, while not the longest ride, it's probably have the most powerful, intense ejector airtime. Like, even with restraints that are really snug, you know you're airborne. You can feel it. And it makes you kind of scared, especially if you're on a wing seat. You're not sure you're going to make it. Or you'll make it to, like, a different state, or my mom even really jokes, you might make it to Canada. So, yeah, sense of death is something that's good on roller coasters. And now we get to the best coaster experience on the planet. I can't say it's the best coaster though. Voyage at Holiday World.
Yay. but
Ryan
boo at the same
mentioned it.
time.
Ryan mentioned it. I account for the average ride experience you'll get on this. And I'd say Voyage average ride experience, it might be in my top 10, it might be in the teens. I'm not sure where it is. If I only account for Hollywood Nights, it's easily the best coaster experience I've ever been on. So I thought number 3 is a good place to average it out. But I'll talk about the Hollywood Nights version. This ride has everything. It's long. There's airtime everywhere. It never lets up. I think it actually gets faster throughout the ride. Like, it feels like it's maybe going like 50 miles an hour over the airtime hills at the beginning, but it's going like 80 miles an hour through the triple down. Like, it doesn't make sense how it gets faster,
Oh yeah,
how it gets more aggressive, how it gets more violent, but
that
it does.
terrain really messes with your head because you think you think you're about 20 feet off the ground with that mid course, and then you immediately go back down and you're hitting the same speeds you were right like at the bottom of the drop.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd say during the day it's kind of more like that floater-ish airtime, but it kicks up. It gets all that time throughout the day to gain speed. They turn those trims off. The sun goes away. It becomes pitch black back there, and it turns from an awesome floater-ish based, fun woody to the psychotic ejector-based juggernaut that is Trimless Voyage. And anyone who hasn't experienced Trimless Voyage, put that as your number 1 bucket list experience. Don't put like Steel Vengeance or Fury or anything like that. Trimless Voyage should be the number 1 thing you want to experience as a coaster enthusiast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Number 2, my favorite wood coaster. Maybe my favorite coaster ever. I've been this is what made me fall in love with Intamin. It's probably actually what got me back in love with the roller coasters to begin with. I had an off time, and that's El Toro at Great Adventure. We've talked about it enough. It's just perfect. Pretty much kind of out and back with the Twister section woody. First airtime hills, or first drop, sorry. I can't think straight. It's incredible. It's weird that it's like as more powerful airtime and feels larger than like giga drops or even some of the hyper drops that are like into 80 degrees steepness while El Toro's only at 76. There's just, I don't know, something about being on a wood coaster and doing that adds to it. One of pretty much like 2 coasters on the planet that I've been on that actually have sustained ejector airtime that's sustained as long as a good B&M hyper sustains its beginning floater hills. And if you haven't experienced that, something to experience. Then, I don't know if Skylar talked that much, but the Rolling Thunder Hill. I think Rolling Thunder Hill, it's legendary because it's just powerful. You're not almost expecting it, because you kind of go through this, I guess I'll say, kind of mellowish, almost mediocre section, but it allows you to catch your breath, and there's still some airtime there and some, nice head choppers because you're going through structure. You go into this turn, and then you're kind of going up the hill, like, what's going on? And then it's like, oh, I'm just thrusted out. It's powerful, very powerful, probably the most powerful airtime on the planet. And saving the best for last. Number 1.
Box.
That's not supposed to be number 1. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for Swamp Fox. I think that's like my number 64 wooden coaster. It's not
Wow.
number 1. So yeah.
lower.
No, the true number 1 though. Expedition G-Force. I'm gonna explain Expedition G-Force in comparison to El Toro, given that probably most of the people watching this are Americans who are familiar with El Toro. El Toro does have a slightly bad turnaround. That's kind of rough. It's a wood coaster in general, which also provides some roughness, and it ends its ride with turns. G-Force doesn't have a bad turnaround. It is butter smooth. And instead of ending with 3 pretty much almost kind of very intense, but they're just turns, G-Force ends with 4 phenomenal ejector-based bunny hills. You can tell you're airborne. Oh, and let's also add G-Force has T-bars. Probably the best coaster restraint on a steel coaster. Among the best ever because he provides you freedom, but no pain. And then pictured in the photo, the drop.
Very beautiful.
The best drop on the planet. Strong ejector airtime on a drop with a spice of intense laterals. You're like, oh, good, this is a great drop. What? Oh, you just crank to the side and kind of just thrown all over the place. And may I add, this re-rideable, doesn't provide pain. I think I rode it just shy of 30 times in a row. When I've done that on El Toro, Skyrush, I-305, I feel it the next day. I kind of feel, my head hurts, or my back hurts, or my thighs hurt. Something's hurting. G-Force, no pain. And it's good in every row. So yeah,
That's good to know.
about it. Any questions from you guys about G-Force though?
No, I fully expect that this is the biggest contender with Steel Vengeance right now, like in terms of popularity and like just people who've ridden both are gonna probably have this as a toss-up.
I'd expect that to be true. I think for me it was just a shocker of I've been a dedicated wood fanboy for a few years. A steel coaster to take that #1 spot back. But it seems fitting for it to be G-Force.
All right, well, ending off with that, thank you guys for watching. We hope to see you guys next time. That was just basic introduction. Everyone's top 10s now that you somewhat know us. Feel free to hate on us in the comments. We don't
Or
really
love on us in the comments because we're actually
Exactly.
we're smart, nice, good people. Except for me, I'm cranky until you get to know me.
That's okay.